Hello, my name is Renata Emilsson Peskova. I'm the researcher and lecturer at the School of Education, University of Iceland. And I'm also the president of Móðurmál, the Association on Bilingualism in Reykjavik. I was invited by the coalition of community-based heritage language schools based in the US to give this webinar about sustainable development goals and their use in community-based heritage language schools. So I'm first going to share screen and introduce shortly the coalition, and then I will show you my slides and the various ways that I thought we could use the sustainable development goals in the work of heritage language schools. So to start with, I'll share screen. And the Coalition of Community-Based Heritage Language Schools based in the US is a national effort started in 2012 by a group of leaders of these schools. And the goal is to connect, support, and advocate for community-based heritage language schools in the US, facilitate communication, increase visibility and recognition. It's possible to find the web page and the Facebook of the coalition to find many useful resources, sign up for the newsletter, see the map, which is one of the achievements of the coalition to continuously map community-based heritage language schools in the US. And we see a picture here. This is the web page, so easily found if you Google Coalition of Community-Based Heritage Language Schools. These are the languages that are associated under the coalition, and each of the languages has a language representative who is in connection with the schools and connects the schools and the teachers with the coalition, invites them to webinars and conferences, etc. Here is the picture again about the documented schools. They are by far not all of them, because as Joshua Fishman said, there are hundreds of languages in the US. So far, there are almost 450 schools and 39 languages documented by the coalition. And it is possible to send your information to the coalition if your school hasn't been documented. Now, to connect, you're encouraged to sign up for the newsletter to be receiving the newest information. And to bridge over to the webinar about SDGs, this is a collaborative effort that Móðurmál, Folk Europe, and other organizations in Europe, as well as the US coalition and ILA in Canada, with collaboration of Australian coalition, we put together a set of international guidelines for professional practices in community-based heritage language schools. During COVID, we were using the technology to connect and to collaborate, and we found out that even though those schools are across the globe, we have a lot in common. We share a lot of principles and best practices. So these are also to be found on the website of the coalition, and they can serve as a guide or a guideline or just as ideas for running heritage language schools. And that was the presentation about the coalition, and then comes the other one, and that would be the webinar, which I'm glad to present right now. I'm trying to move this window and it doesn't work, but it doesn't matter. Let me just open the PowerPoint. And this was an idea that kind of matured over the time, and I was very happy to be invited by the coalition to create this webinar for their schools and teachers with me. I had BBM Gonzalez Rodriguez, who is a Spanish teacher in Modernmal Spanish group and who was working with sustainable development goals over a year during COVID and documented the project in much detail. So this is the agenda today. I will briefly introduce the Sustainable Development Goals, show some educational activities on SDGs, speak about why they are relevant for community-based heritage language schools, and I will show you 4 models or 4 ideas how these schools can work with the SDGs. And after that, there was a discussion in the breakout rooms, and the webinar participants were discussing how they could use these SDGs in their own schools. And afterward, the ideas were brought together. I have to say this is a replay, so we don't have participants here right now. This is done just to be placed on YouTube in a little better quality than we got from the video that was the actual seminar. So these are the Sustainable Development Goals. In 2030, United Nations member states, 193 altogether. I said it wrongly again. These member states of the United Nations, 193 together, gathered in 2015, and they published the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals. And this agenda provides a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet, now and into the future. At its heart are 17 Sustainable Development Goals, so-called SDGs, which are an urgent call for action by all countries developed and developing in a global partnership. They recognize that ending poverty and other deprivations must go hand in hand with strategies to improve health and education, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth, all while tackling climate change and working to preserve our oceans and forests. The SDGs built on decades of work by countries and the UN, including the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs. And at this point, I'm going to play a short video that introduces the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. In the slides that are shared also on the website of the coalition, there are all the links to all the videos that I'm playing. So it's easy to find the original resources. I will continue now from current slide. In connection with the Sustainable Development Goals, people sometimes speak about a wedding cake, and you can see that there are 3 circles here, And the base of the cake, of the so-called cake, are 4 goals that are connected with the environment. Then the middle layer are 8 goals that are connected with society. And on top, there are 4 goals that are connected with economy. Goal number 17 connects them all. And the idea behind this cake is that it has to have very strong base so that the society and the economy can function. So the environment is the base for all the other goals. We need clean oceans, clean nature, clean water, clean energy. Then the society goals, they would be the goals that tend to population, education, hunger, well-being, equality, sustainable cities, peace, etc., clean energy, and the goals on top, the economical ones. We need sustainable economical progress to be able to run all the other goals. As you can see on the picture on the right side, all of these goals are closely connected. It's not possible to separate them from each other. Each of the goals is connected with other goals, and we need to see them as such. Behind each goal, there are some targets, and behind each target, there are indicators of achievement, whether these goals have been achieved or the targets under the goals. So I'm not going to list them, but on the next slide here, I will show you one goal: ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. That's something that we do in the community-based heritage language schools. We promote education. And under that goal, there is one target, many targets. This is just one of them. By 2030, ensure that all learners acquire the knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development, including, among others, through education for sustainable development and sustainable lifestyles, human rights, gender equality, promotion of a culture of peace and nonviolence, global citizenship and appreciation of cultural diversity, and of culture's contribution to sustainable development. I'll go out of this again and click the link behind the title. And here you can see the website of the United Nations. It has all the SDGs here listed with all the targets and the indicators. So we can read all of these and find out about them. Okay. Here, the targets and indicators. There's an overview to start with of this, particular goal. But when we go into targets and indicators, you can see target 1, target 2, 3, 4. All of these are under the quality education. And here is the one that I was reading before. And I click and there are indicators behind. And the good thing about these indicators is that we can actually have an idea in measurable sense how far we have gotten with this particular target. So for example, here, we can achieve this target and the extent of it. Its extent to which global citizenship education and education for sustainable development are mainstreamed in national education policies, curricula, teacher education, and student assessment. So we can actually say how well we are doing in this particular target from national policies, if they mention the goals, curricula, if they incorporated the goals, teacher education, what are the courses in universities, what do they teach, student assessment. So this is very nice because it's the SDGs are not only a policy, a beautiful policy on paper, but the idea is that that they will actually be worked with and continuously aimed at achieving those goals, which you will see also on the next slide. When I jump here and maybe make this bigger for just a while, on this particular website that I'm going to show to you, you can see an overview of the whole world, how all of the countries are doing in terms of achieving those goals. And you can see all of the goals here on the bottom, 17. And if you click on each of the particular goal, the colors will change on the map of the world. On the left side, you see the legend. So the green color says that the SDG has been achieved in that particular country. Yellow, challenges remain. Orange, significant challenges remain. And red, major challenges remain. And the gray means information is unavailable. So when I go into this website, we can actually click on a few of the goals to see how it looks, how it works. No poverty, number 1. So you can see that a few countries indicate that they have already achieved that goal. No hunger. When I click number 2 goal, you can see that no country actually is green. There is actually a lot of red. Major challenges remain in many countries of the world, and significant challenges in some of the bigger countries of the world as well. Number 3 goal, that's the good health and well-being. Also, you can see red and orange. Education, that's nicer. There's more green there and more yellow. Gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy. Next one, see, we have some green here. Decent work and economic growth. Number 9, industry, innovation and infrastructure. Number 10, reduced inequalities. Number 11, sustainable cities. Number 12, responsible consumption and production. Number 13, climate action. Number 14, life below water. Number 15, life on land. And 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. And number 17, partnerships for the goals. So this is very, very interesting. And I think it's a good web page also to share with students and kind of see that maybe countries that are doing well on economic growth are actually doing really badly on environmental issues. The developed countries of the world, they are also spoiling the environment most. And what's also interesting to do with the students is to go into the country profiles, and you can click any country of the world and see how that country is actually doing. So let's go to the United States. And when you click it, you can see these 17 goals, and the green arrows indicate positive development. Red arrows indicate negative development. Yellow arrows, they are in between. So you can see an overview of the country here, and it's possible also to go into the indicators and to get even more detailed picture. These are the indicators behind each of the goals. So this is something I think it's quite interesting to do with older children and youth, and kind of discuss learn to read the maps and the texts and the color coding, and kind of interpret what's behind these indicators and goals. So this is a very, very interesting website. And let's go on. Here, this is a website with Sustainable Development Goals resources for educators. So I will go back to the website in just a second, but each of the goals there is divided into educational levels. So you can find resources for early childhood care and education, primary education, and secondary education for each of the 17 goals. And what we have been discussing in the seminar, and that's something that you can get back to us and share with us, we need these resources for educators in different languages. So it would be really nice to collect similar resources in other languages as well, so that we could use them in our countries or in our heritage language schools. So here you can again see the Sustainable Development Goals, and let me click on Life Below Water. And you can see that there is a text, there are these stages, there are different links and different ideas for early childhood care and education, primary education, and secondary education. And here is a PDF with all the resources. So of course we can take the English text and adapt it to our languages. But it's also possible, of course, to just search and collect resources in other languages, which I would love to do. So going back to the presentation, here are two very short and easy educational activities that you can share with your students. Here is a quiz, and I need to clear the quiz first because I have already done this before. So this is very simple. Match the goal with its explanation. This is something you can do on an interactive screen, or just ask the students to do it on an iPad or telephone. End poverty in all its forms everywhere. And that would be the goal, no poverty. So you drag and connect. End hunger, achieve food security and improved nutrition. So that would be zero hunger, etc. And then you move on here with the arrow. So that's when you want to introduce the goal to the kids, or you have spoken about them a little bit and you want to just sum up. Here is another digital game, a little bit more complicated, but not so much complicated. So for example, I click on peace, justice, and strong institutions here, and I will get some questions and click the answers. Which of the following is a democracy? A country ruled by a dictator, a country ruled by the people, country ruled only by men. So we want to click on country ruled by people. And what is a child soldier? Not a child who plays war games, but a child who is enrolled in an armed group. And so you go down all the way, then you show answers. Yes, I want to show answers. Of course, I only answered 2 of them, but you have your score down below. And you have 5 questions, I think, about each of these 17 goals. So this is something that takes a little bit longer, but again, it's easy to do with the kids. It's ready-made. Okay, just clear everything and go back to my slides. Okay. So why are these Sustainable Development Goals relevant for community-based heritage language schools? We developed these international guidelines for professional practices. We collaborated with coalitions and umbrella organizations across the world, basically. And we agreed we share values, and some of these values include identity, plurilingualism, multiculturalism, democracy, equity, global citizenship, cooperation. We help preserve heritage languages as a way of nurturing diversity, mutual respect, and inclusion. We are educating children, preparing them for life. Here in the middle, you can see some of the ways that we suggest that these values can be implemented and achieved. And So actually the Sustainable Development Goals fit very well with our schools because we're educational institutions and we want to prepare our students, our children for the future, for life in the multicultural society and in this world. And of course, languages are very important tool to communicate about all kinds of challenges that we face in the world. So this is also useful when you try to do project-based education, when you don't focus entirely on linguistic aspects of the heritage language. When you are looking for some content, all of the content that you work with can be linked to some of the Sustainable Development Goals. And since the Sustainable Development Goals are a common effort of all countries in the world and all educators, I think it is also our responsibility to connect with these and make them relevant, make them visible, and introduce them to the children. Here are the 4 models that I'm going to introduce shortly. The first one is adjusted from an SDG compass. The second one is an organization in Iceland that actually aligned all its work with the goals. The third is the Heritage Language Education Network that aligned its mission with the goals. And then I will show you a project that Móðurmál did with children during COVID. And all of the schools of Móðurmál joined the project. So the SDG Compass, and again, there is a link in the slides and you can Google it as well, is a guide for business action on the SDGs. But I think it's easily transferable to nonprofit, non-governmental organizations. So let's first look at the picture here on the left. There are 5 simple steps. Understanding the SDGs, number 1. Defining priorities, number 2. Setting goals, number 3. Integrating the goals into the work, number 4. And reporting and communicating, number 5. And here on the right side, this is actually quite clever. The companies are encouraged to work with the SDGs because there are some very positive aspects of it for their work. Companies can use the SDGs as an overarching framework to shape, steer, communicate, and report their strategies, goals, and activities, allowing them to capitalize on a range of benefits, such as identifying future business opportunities, enhancing the value of corporate sustainability, strengthening stakeholder relations and keeping the pace with policy developments, stabilizing societies and markets, using a common language and shared purpose. Now, some of our partners, heritage language coalitions and umbrella organizations, have already also found some opportunities in aligning the SDGs with their work. And maybe we highlight our value by attaching our work to these commonly shared goals. I adjusted this a little bit. Here are some concrete or more concrete ideas how to work with each of the 5 steps. So for example, understanding the SDGs means getting acquainted with them, understanding the responsibility of the school to implement them, and understand the opportunities to implement the goals. Secure support of management and teachers, and find out about knowledge of stakeholders. Now, stakeholders in heritage language schools would be teachers, volunteers, parents, institutions, children, everybody in the large community that surrounds each of the schools. Number 2 step, analyze what we do, analyze stakeholders, see what schools and other stakeholders do, make connections with schools and other stakeholders. Number 3, setting goals. Use the SDGs for policy making, prioritize, consult, select measuring tools, create action plan with goals, milestones, and timing. Publish your decisions and decide on processes. Number 4, integrating, is about collaboration towards the goals, professional development, regular meetings on policy, dialogue with stakeholders, and look for inspiration and further collaborations. We need to integrate the work into everything that we do. And step number 5, reporting and communicating. Measure success, evaluate progress, mediate results regularly, create opportunities for knowledge dissemination. Now, I think that you're already thinking about your schools and how this would actually look in your own educational settings. Of course, all of this needs to be adjusted to the possibilities and to the work of each undertaking, each school, each company. This is the 2030 agenda that I mentioned in the beginning. And you can see on the left side that there are 5 little paragraphs, and each of the headlines starts with a P: people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. So the Icelandic Disability Alliance, ÖBI, they actually analyzed these goals and they aligned them with all their work. All of this is on Icelandic. Sorry about that. I was in a presentation where representatives of the Alliance were talking about how they work with the goals. And you can see on the slide on the right side that there are these 5 circles. Each of them includes one of the P words from the 2030 agenda: people, peace, prosperity, planet, partnerships. And they connected each of these goals, let's say, or themes with individual goals. And on the left side, the colorful poster, these are the goals of the Alliance, of the Icelandic Disability Alliance. And you can see there are different goals, but they are aligned with these 5 themes, both in colors and in the images. And you can see that each of these squares has the tiny little squares on the bottom, and these are the individual goals that they align their work with. And in order to distribute their goals for the Icelandic Disability Alliance, they created a set of cards that you can hang on your keychain, for example. And you can see that, again, they include all these goals. So this is something that they can hand over to their partners, institutions, clients, and they can show these are our goals and they're in alignment with Agenda 2030 of the United Nations. They're aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. So this is one way how you can work with the goals, that you actually kind of analyze what you do and you get acquainted with the goals and relate what you do with the goals. And in that seminar, we actually did it and discussed it. And it was a really good discussion, kind of to look at what we do and what goals are we actually working towards. And this could be a nice seminar, a nice working session with the teachers of the school to actually look at what they do and how it aligns with the goals. Now, Heritage Language Education Network, I was quite impressed with the way that they reacted to the goals. They were applying for a grant, and they thought they had a better chance of receiving funding if they aligned their work with the SDG. So here it was used in a pragmatic way, in the way that they were hoping to get funding if they show, we are on top of things, we are aligned with the SDGs. So you can see it says, through Heritage Language Education Networks, various activities, we work towards achieving our mission. Our program of activities is in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals for 2030. Heritage Language Education Network works towards ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all, target 4.7, etc. Heritage Language Education Network works towards reducing inequality within and among countries, targets 10.2 and 10.3, etc. They do it by informing the public, etc. Heritage Language Network works towards making cities inclusive, target 11.4. It does so by promoting educational programs that help protect and safeguard the world's linguistic and cultural heritage. So they would also say this is the goal that we are working towards, and we are doing it in this way. Modermal, the Association on Bilingualism, did project work around the goals in the COVID. On the screen, you can see some of the pictures from the video that I'm going to show you. Actually, this was a project that was supposed to end with a children conference where children would present their work and show what they have been doing throughout the year. But because of COVID, there was no conference, and it was decided to create a video instead with the work. And in terms of dissemination, that was a good idea because already like several thousands of people have seen this video. I'm going to open the link and start it on 2.10. I'm not going to play the whole video here.
We are such a big community. We want also to create a feeling of belonging to the community. So since 2016, we started to have a joint project, and we have done several of them. The first one was to create a dictionary on environmental issues. So with words related to sustainability or climate change, they were translated in more than 25 languages. In 2018, we did another project, common project, that we created a book, bilingual book in Icelandic and all the other mother tongues. And it was also a presentation for the schools. And we had more than 20 languages that participated in that project. So our last joint project with the groups, it was about the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of United Nations. And we think it's a very good way for our children to get to know the world's major challenges through the United Nations goals. And the idea was that each participating group will choose one or several of these goals and work with that goal or those goals through the year. And then the different groups, they created different videos or PowerPoint presentations, artworks. They have like philosophical discussions also in the classrooms, and they went out to nature and and create a lot of material. Okay, the importance of this project is that we live in a global world, and we have a global problem with the destruction of the environment, and we should all work on this. And because of globalization, we live all around the world, different cultures, we are all mixed. And this problem, it is not of only one country or one culture. We all have to take part of it. And I think it's very important to open the awareness of this issue.
Við erum að vinna í heimsmarkið. Merki númer 5. Jafnrétti kynjanna. Merki 16. Friður og réttlæti. Merki númer 13. Aðgerðir í loftslagsmálum. Merki númer 15. Líf á landi. Við erum búin að undirbúa kynningu fyrir ykkur. Við erum horft á myndbönd, lesið bækur. Og mikið fleira. Þetta verður allt verið mjög skemmtilegt.
Kids were saying how much fun it was to work on these goals. And that was Maria Sastre, the former president of Modermal, the Association on Bilingualism. So this project is finished, but here I want to give you an insight into one group's work, and that was the Spanish group. BBM was the teacher, and she compiled very detailed report about each of the classes that was taught during that whole year. And the theme was SDGs. Some of the topics of the classes were whales, endangered species, biodiversity, extinct species and general concepts, coral reefs, children's rights, reading, working on SDGs on PowerPoints, and translating some of the parts into Icelandic. They were using various online tools, Google Classroom, Google Hangouts, Google Docs, YouTube. And you can see in the pictures that there are some works of art. There are some texts. There is some outdoor, there is a video, and different things. The report, BBM kindly made it available. So it is available on the website of the coalition of community-based heritage language schools. You can download it from there. And this is a reflection that BBM also kindly agreed to share with us. And it's about the work on these SDGs. And I just give you a minute to read it, and you can also stop the recording and read it for yourself. I'll move on. So this is another example how SDGs have been used. This is a conference on multilingualism in COVID-19, lessons learned and looking forward. And one of the messages was that the consequences for education have been detrimental, that the goals actually have lost a lot of progress during these 2 years, but there are also some lessons learned. It's necessary to reach the populations where they are in languages that they understand. But what caught my attention is also that this conference was a 2-day conference, and the first day was associated and connected with the SDG number 3, good health and well-being. And the second day was associated with SDG number 4, quality education. So I think it's important to make these goals visible in whatever we do. I mean, another nice example I noticed in my workplace, and that's a different issue, but the curriculum vitae of my colleagues, of the employees of the university, we are also expected to connect our work with the SDGs. We are supposed to say towards which SDGs our research is oriented. So everybody should kind of connect what they do with the goals and work toward them in some way. Right. And this is the point where in the webinar, the participants went into the breakout rooms, and they were discussing these questions. How can your school connect the SDGs into its work? What goals are relevant for your community-based heritage language school? And what actions would you like to take towards the selected SDGs? And at the end of these breakout rooms, the participants came back and they reported on some of the ideas that they had. And we are going to compile the ideas and also encourage you who are listening to this video to get in touch and maybe share some of your ideas. Here are some further resources, some further websites that you can explore when you're looking for educational resources for your heritage language classes. And that would be all from me. I'll stop sharing here. thank you very much for your attention, and I hope that you found some inspiration in this webinar.